We've had a pretty good year so far for games. We've had some stellar releases already come out, and of course we've got quite a few confirmed already for this year, and undoubtedly more to be announced at E3. And one of the biggest releases of the year for me is undoubtedly Dishonored 2. I loved the original Dishonored. I don't usually enjoy stealth games all that much, but Dishonored was actually the exception to the rule, and I enjoyed the world and the gameplay very much. The story, but the game overall was pretty good, so I was very happy to hear that they are indeed, of course, releasing Dishonored 2 this year. Now, one of the things that, of course, made Dishonored interesting is that you had two endings. You had the sort of good ending and the bad ending, or the chaos, or the high chaos ending and the low chaos ending, which is basically based on how many people you killed versus, say, a non-lethal takedown. And it was very much, you either get ending A or you get ending B, and it is directly tied to this one thing, and it was pretty linear in terms of which one you got. However, it might be a little bit different this time, as the guys over at Arkane revealed some interesting information in an interview with IGN, and in particular this was some comments from co-creative director Harvey Smith, and he talked about the much more complex system behind player choice in Dishonored 2, which actually has led to many different endings. And he said, quote, "We have many more than just two endings this time, so it's a very ambitious undertaking to update that level of the game. In Dishonored 2, we weigh people differently. You can find a person in the world who might be sympathetic, and someone who's guilty, and someone who's murderous, and those people contribute differently to the end outcome. So right off the bat, there's a subtler approach to that. For example, in one occasion, two leaders of opposite factions both had their legitimate views of why they're better for the people, and you have to make a decision to end one or the other, or both, or neither, and that has an impact on how the game turns out." Now, I will include the full interview with IGN in the description below this video. There's also a few screenshots and a few other things as well if you want to check it out. There is a huge amount of stuff that they discuss, but there is one other thing that I want to touch on from this interview. And the one thing that I want to discuss here is, of course, the inclusion of Emily Caldwin as a sort of more central character, and of course as a playable character, as you can choose between Corvo or Emily, which is leaving me a bit torn. I might do Corvo first and then Emily, because Corvo was my man, cosplayed as him, and that was a very hot outfit. But regardless, they did touch on how they wanted to change things and their decisions behind including Emily as a character. And he said, quotes, "When we started Dishonored 2, we had a bunch of ideas about how we wanted to make a better game, but at the same time make something very familiar and true to what our hardcore fans love. If I absolutely had to boil it down, I would say we really wanted to introduce Emily Caldwin as a character. What would she be like when she grew up? We couldn't stop thinking about Emily as a character, so as we started to wrap our heads around that, we started thinking about her as an action character. Her keywords are Dunwall, Empress and Assassin. Her themes about what happens when you lose everything and you have to see how the rest of the world live." So some rather interesting sort of insights there as to perhaps the sort of character that Emily is actually going to be now that she's grown up and kind of follows in Corvo's footsteps a little bit, as well as, of course, the thinking behind their decision to include her as a playable character. As I said, the interview with IGN is pretty huge. I have merely touched on the surface of what they discussed, so if you want to read more about the upcoming Dishonored 2, and I wouldn't blame you because it's looking pretty awesome, I suggest you check the description below, as it will be linked there for your perusal. So, let the hype train commence, I suppose. I know it's going to be a while before this game comes out, but I, for one, am looking forward to it. I can't wait to delve in to the world of Dishonored 2 and see what Arkane have in store for us this time. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.